Lord, investigators need help finding a man they believe murdered his girlfriend and then dismembered her body.
They suspect he used a chainsaw. The latest in this year-old case kicks off tonight's 90-second Nightcap.
This is the man they're looking for, 47-year-old Eric Arceneaux. Police haven't seen him since they began this investigation more than a year ago. That's when his girlfriend, 29-year-old Maria Rodriguez, vanished after dropping off her daughter with a babysitter. Houston police say their investigation revealed that Arceneaux bought a chainsaw and heavy-duty trash bags at a Home Depot, and the crime scene technicians later found blood on the walls and ceiling of a bedroom inside his home.
He didn't die a hero, he died a coward. Crying, whimpering, screaming.
President Trump announced the death of ISIS leader Abu Bakr al-Baghdadi from the White House Sunday and said he watched the raid play out in real time. Al-Baghdadi's death is a national security win for President Trump, who has faced bipartisan criticism for withdrawing U.S. troops from Syria, enabling the escape of some ISIS prisoners.
Democrats could bring a resolution to the House floor this week to affirm the ongoing impeachment inquiry. In a letter to colleagues, House Speaker Nancy Pelosi said the vote would eliminate any doubt as to whether the Trump administration may withhold documents, prevent witness testimony, disregard duly authorized subpoenas, or continue obstructing the House of Representatives.
Drivers passed huge flames on the west side of the busy 405 freeway near downtown Los Angeles after a wildfire broke out overnight. Los Angeles Lakers star LeBron James was among those who had to leave his home. In Northern California, a fire in Sonoma County has destroyed nearly 100 homes and buildings. Hundreds of thousands of people have been ordered to leave.